Hello, my name is Shelley, and this is our 7th lesson on algebraic fractions. Up until now, we've concentrated on factorizing in order to learn how to simplify fractions. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to multiply algebraic fractions. Firstly, to refresh your memories, we are going to revise the multiplication of fractions with numbers so that we can apply this to the multiplication of algebraic fractions. Let's begin. How do you multiply these fractions? 2/5 multiplied by 1/2. Well, in order to see the principle of what we are doing, I'm going to use a diagram to show you. What do we know about this? We know that it means 2/5 of 1/2. As you know, the word of implies multiply. So here is 1/2 of a whole. What is 1/5 of the half? Can you see from the diagram that it is 1/10 of the whole? And here are 2/5 of a half of the whole. Can you see that it is 2/10 of the whole? And that is the same as 1/5 of the whole. So now 2/5 of 1/2 is 1/5. Now let's do this without a diagram. What we did in this example was to multiply the numerators by the numerators and the denominators by the denominators. And this is a very important concept for you to understand. When we multiply fractions, we multiply the numerators by the numerators and the denominators by the denominators. So, what is 2/5 of 1/2? Well, let's multiply the numerators by the numerators. And we get 2 multiplied by 1. And multiply the denominators by the denominators. And we get 5 multiplied by 2. Now, 5 multiplied by 2 can also be written as 2 multiplied by 5. So you can see that this is equal to 2 divided by 2 all multiplied by 1 divided by 5. And this is actually 1 multiplied by 1 divided by 5, which is 1/5. But wait a moment, let's go back and look at this. Can you see that we could have cancelled the 2's right in the beginning? We can cancel them because they are factors. And our answer is the same, 1/5. Now let's do an example together. Multiply a divided by b multiplied by 1 divided by a. Now we know we need to multiply the numerator by the numerator and the denominator by the denominator. So we multiply our a by our 1 and we should get a. Then we divide him by b multiplied by a, which gives us ab. We could have written ba, doesn't make a difference. And now what we do is we can write this in another way as a divided by a multiplied by 1 divided by b. Notice now we have our common factors and those cancel and we are left with 1. A lot of people want to write 0, but we're actually left with 1 multiplied by 1 over b. Now, something multiplied by 1 is always itself, so that ends up being 1 over b. But now let's go back and look at this carefully. Notice we could have cancelled the a's immediately because a over a equals 1 and we would have been left straight away with 1 divided by b. And note it gives us the same answer. What have we learned from this? Well, let's add to the rule that we've just learned. When we multiply fractions, we multiply the numerators by the numerators and the denominators by the denominators, or we cancel common factors. Before we move on, let's do a few more examples of this together. Multiply a plus b divided by ab multiplied by a squared b squared divided by a squared minus b squared. Now, The important thing that you have to remember is that you can only cancel factors. And here we have terms. Notice the plus sign, notice the minus sign. So, do you see anything here that looks like it can be factorized? Yes, we have a difference of 2 squares. We factorize the difference of 2 squares to create factors. So this is all equal to a plus b divided by ab multiplied by, now a squared times b squared is the same as writing a times b times b. All divided by, now we have our difference of 2 squares. So we put our 2 brackets down, and we remember we have a minus in the one bracket and a plus in the one bracket. Now we find the square root of a squared, which is a, and it goes in the first place in each bracket, and the square root of b squared is b, and that goes in the second place in each bracket. And lastly, we put a bracket around our a plus b to make it one factor instead of 2 terms. Good. Now we have factorized everything and we are ready to cancel. We can cancel this bracket, a plus b, with this bracket, a plus b. And we can cancel this a with this a and this b with this b. So what are we left with? In the top, we are left with a multiplied by b divided by a minus b. Now, can we cancel again? No, not this time. Notice the numerator contains factors a and b, but the denominator contains a minus b, which is terms separated by a minus, and we cannot cancel terms. So this is our final answer. Now let's do one more example. Multiply y squared plus 6y plus 9 multiplied by y minus 3 divided by y squared minus 9. Now notice we are multiplying fractions, but over here we don't have a fraction. So the first thing we always do in a question like this is make it a fraction. So we divide it by 1. Now we can look at what our fractions consist of. Notice we are multiplying, and when we multiply we need to cancel, and we can only cancel factors. But we have a number of different terms, so we first need to factorize. Now what do we notice over here? What is this expression? Notice we have 3 terms, and so it is a trinomial. What do we notice about this one? We have a difference of 2 squares, and we know how to factorize that. And lastly, up in our numerator, we have 2 terms, and if we just put a bracket around it, we will make it one factor. So let's factorize. Now we've learned how to factorize a trinomial. Remember, we write down our 2 brackets. Then we ask ourselves, what 2 numbers multiply together to give us 9 and would add up to give us positive 6? Now there are a number of options. Let's try them. We could have 9 multiplied by 1, because that gives us 9. But then let's think about it. Does 9 plus 1 give us 6? No, it gives us 10. So let's try another option. What about 3 multiplied by 3? 3 multiplied by 3 gives us positive 9. And 3 plus 3 gives us positive 6. So that is the correct option. So let's circle it so we remember. Okay, now what we do is we write down our y in the first place in each bracket, because y times y gives us y squared. And then we write positive 3, don't forget to put the sign as well, and another positive 3. And that's all divided by 1. Now let's factorize the other fraction. So we write down our multiplication sign, and then we're going to put these terms in a bracket to make them one factor, and then we write our divide sign. Now we have a difference of 2 squares. So straight away we put down our 2 brackets, and remember to put a plus sign in the one bracket and a minus sign in the other bracket. Then the square root of y squared is y, and that goes in the first place in each bracket. And the square root of 9 is 3, and that goes in the second place in each bracket. And now we've just got factors, so we are ready to cancel. Notice we have a y plus 3 up in the top, y plus 3 in the bottom, we cancel out. Y minus 3 cancels with y minus 3, and we are left with y plus 3. And that is our final answer. Can you see that to multiply fractions is really not difficult? You must be able to recognize factors. But here's your task for this lesson. Multiply 2pq divided by p plus 2q multiplied by 2p squared minus 8q squared divided by 4p minus 8q. That's all for this lesson. We have learned how to multiply fractions. In our next lesson, we are going to learn about the principle of changing sign, what this means and how to do it.